Hey, Michael Kerr here. Welcome to another episode of Inspiring Workplaces, where we talk about all things workplace culture and inspiring workplaces that rock. For decades, we have all heard about the dangers associated with secondhand smoke. I want to talk to you about a different kind of secondhand danger in the workplace, namely secondhand stress at work, which is a real thing. And by secondhand stress, I mean the phenomenon of infecting one another through our own levels of stress, through our behaviors, through our tone of voice, our words, through maybe just being very frenetic and hurried in our actions. We spread stress onto other people. Sometimes we are the recipient of secondhand stress, and sometimes we are the contributor of secondhand stress. But either way, it's a really, really critical issue in most workplaces, and it's something that we need to talk about. And I want to give you a few ideas on how you can reduce secondhand stress, recognizing that it is a huge topic. But first of all, do know that this is a huge, huge source of issues in any workplace. Secondhand stress is a productivity killer. It is a creativity killer. It is a communication killer. People quit their jobs because of secondhand stress. It creates mental and physical health issues for employees. It reduces happiness and engagement of our teammates. So we all need to be aware of the power of secondhand stress to create a more soul-sucking, fun-sucking workplace, and be aware again of our own attitudes and behaviors and what we are doing to make sure we aren't contributors of secondhand stress, because it has enormous impacts in the workplace. One study that sounds like it should have been done on the sitcom The Office. They measured employees' blood pressure when certain people were away from the office and when they were present. And what they found was that when certain people were away from the office, their blood pressure went down. And when they were there at the office, those same people, their blood pressure went up. Now, I don't know about you, I would feel horrible knowing that just my presence in a room was causing people's blood pressure to spike. That's awful. So again, we have to be aware of our attitudes, our behaviors, our words, our tone of voice. Are we spreading secondhand stress to people? Because we know it is incredibly contagious. It is infectious. Attitudes, emotions, we know from so much research, are incredibly contagious and infectious. In fact, there is a study that suggests that there is a phenomenon where we can infect people with our attitudes, with our emotions, 2 people down the chain. So in other words, if your boss's spouse was in a lousy mood in the morning, that could affect your boss a little bit. So then they come in a little bit stressed out, and then they passed on some secondhand stress to you. So understand, our emotions are incredibly contagious. So let's be aware of how we're coming across. One study found that every encounter we have throughout the day with a soul-sucking, fun-sucking person at work reduces our chances of being happy by 7%. Conversely, every encounter we have with a more positive, supportive person, a person who perhaps smiles at us, increases our chances of being happy by 9%, and that's per person. So let's talk about this. Let's raise awareness about this on our teams. Let's raise awareness about the fact that everybody plays the role of an orchestra conductor in some ways. And by that I mean everybody decides what the tone is on their tune, or contributes to the tone in your team, in your meetings, in your workplace. They contribute to the music that is being played. And whether that's in person or whether that's your presence on a video meeting, you impact the mood of the entire team. And so let's talk about that in our teams. One of the simple things you can do is raise awareness just through some signs, making it visible, maybe having a giant mascot or some fun badges or buttons, or opening up your meetings with a reminder, or putting up signs like this. I love this sign. I'm going to read it in case you can't read it, because it's a pretty cool sign, I think. Imagine going into your office and this is the first sign you see every day. Please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space. Your words matter. Your behaviors matter. Our patients and teams matter. Take a slow, deep breath and make sure your energy is in check before entering. Thank you. Now, of course, that isn't going to solve all the problems of the universe, but it's just one thing you can do to remind people to be more present, to be more aware of how their behaviors might be affecting the people around them. I'm a huge fan of daily team huddles as a way of reducing conflict at work, of a way of just checking in with employees. And we know from research that companies that do daily team huddles do tend to have lower levels of stress and secondhand stress, because it just becomes this way of checking in with one another and helping to contribute to a psychologically safe workplace. Now, nobody wants to go to another meeting, so let me remind you, if you are new to daily huddles, no chairs allowed, or it becomes another meeting. Short and sweet, 5 to 10 minutes, same agenda, same place. Get in the habit of doing these. They are a game changer, trust me. I don't know any of my clients who don't rave about the power of these once they start doing them consistently. And then have maybe an attitude ritual, an emotional check ritual that you do in the morning. One simple one, and some of these can be incredibly simple. One simple one that one of my clients does, they have a team of about 14, 15 people. When they're all there in the open office, all they do is this very simple exercise where everybody stands up and they yell out how they're doing on a scale of 1 to 10. And they use decimal points because that makes it way more fun, because people then get a little goofy and say, yeah, I'm 7.6254. And they do this as just a check-in to remind everybody that they can hit the reset button, to remind everybody to be more aware of their emotions, their attitudes that they're bringing into the workplace, but also to see if there's anybody who needs support, to identify where the person is who says maybe 2, I'm a 2, so they can rally around that person and help support them. So they minimize secondhand stress in that way. I'm also a huge fan of sharing surveys of what creates secondhand stress at work. What are some of the pet peeves? What are some of the things that annoy people that we might be doing inadvertently? And if we share those top 10 lists, those pet peeve surveys, those what annoys the heck out of your coworker surveys, it becomes a safe way to raise awareness about what might be bugging people and contributing to secondhand stress in your workplace. And then having good neighbor meetings where you just talk about on a regular basis, maybe once every few months, hey, what do we need to do to make sure we're all just being good neighbors with one another and that we're not contributing to secondhand stress at work. I'm a huge fan for facilitated conversations around the wheel of change, using the wheel of change framework to have a conversation about this, where you talk about secondhand stress and then you just commit as a team. Okay, what is one thing we all need to commit to keep doing? So we do it, but sometimes we kind of forget, we're not consistent with it. So what's one thing we need to keep doing? What's one thing we need to start doing? One thing we need to stop doing? And what is one thing we all just need to learn to live with because it's not going away? And commit to that and have that conversation specifically as it applies to secondhand stress. And then finally, embrace small moments. Embrace the power of small moments. I can't tell you the number of stories that I've come across, the number of examples that my clients share with me where they talk about how they change their entire workplace culture simply by recognizing the power of small moments, of getting everybody to be more intentional about how they interact when they're passing one another down a corridor, down the hallway, when they're interacting at a meeting, just those small courtesies, those small daily things that we have to remember to do. I remember when I was working in one soul-sucking, fun-sucking workplace where there were days where you'd be walking down the hallway, you'd see another colleague come the other way, and they'd give you one of these, and they'd growl at you, and they'd go by you, and it was like they would bark at you. And that kind of sucks the fun out of the joint. So let's remember the power, let's embrace the power of small, simple moments to make a difference in one another's lives, as long as we are consistent about that. It may sound cheesy, it may sound corny, but that's how we create truly positive, happier, more inspiring workplaces that rock. If you haven't subscribe to my Inspiring Workplace channel, please join the growing community, hit the subscribe button, and please let me know what you think of the video. What do you do to cope with secondhand stress in your workplace? Do you have any strategies to help minimize it at a personal level, at a team level, at an organizational level? I would love to hear your ideas. Please leave a comment in the comment box. And as I already said, be sure to join us every week for another episode of Inspiring Workplaces.